Hi everyone, my name is Rachelle Zavalza-Arellano and I am a proud South Salem alum from 2022. And I'm very excited to be here today to talk about the last 2 years and also my experience at South.
0, 1. Let's get started.
Today we're joined by 2022 graduate Rachelle Zavalza-Arellano. Rachelle's high school years found her involved in our IB program, our Latino club, DECA, and the Student Equity Committee, among many, many other things. I'm so excited for you all to hear about Rachelle's story. She's a first-generation student currently studying sociology and political science at Stanford University with a focus on political economy and development. So excited to get into that. Welcome, Rachelle.
Thank you, Mr. Marshall. Hi everyone. So yeah, currently I am a junior at Stanford University. So it's been 2 years since I graduated South Salem High School. And a lot has happened within these last 2 years. As of right now, I am in Washington, D.C. Um, I am working for the Congressional Hispanic Caucus Institute, so very timely for Hispanic Heritage Month. It's been an amazing experience as I get to work on the Hill with our representative, Andrea Salinas, and as well be mentored by several Latino leaders who work here in DC and also represent their states back home. So I'm here for the entire semester, and in other words, I took a semester off from Stanford. I just thought this experience was very valuable for my career and what I want to do. And so, yeah, right now I'm in DC. Um, I also just got back from studying abroad, which also brought this year with a lot of changes. So I studied abroad in Madrid, Spain, where I got to continue my studies in Spanish, as that was something I wanted to improve, even though I am fluent in Spanish. Um, and then, yeah, I've done 2 years at Stanford, which has also been such a unique experience, given that I am the first in my family to go to college. And so, first year took a lot of navigating what I wanted to study, how I wanted to, find my community at Stanford. And then my second year, just, once I found myself more comfortable at Stanford in California, I think I felt a lot more comfortable with, my career and what I wanted to do during my summers. And that kind of led me to study abroad and now be in DC.
Wow, that's an incredible update. So many questions to follow up on. I am curious, though, you mentioned that community and building community your first year at Stanford. What's it like now being removed from that community of support, being in a place like Washington, D.C., where I'm sure your days are just jam-packed with schedules and meetings and everything you've got going on. Talk about that transition for you and how it's been being removed from that community and even further removed from Salem.
So, Stanford actually has a really unique program for first generation college students known as the Leyland Scholars Program. So, before I started Stanford, I was on campus for about a month where I had a cohort of about 50 students. And there is where I feel like I found my community right off the bat. I mean, students who come from very similar backgrounds like me, who are one first generation, either identify as a person of color or coming from an immigrant household, all these identities mixed into one program. And so I think having that experience before starting my Stanford journey was very unique. And I think I felt a lot more comfortable and also a lot of mentors coming in to my first year of college. And so that I think is honestly what has made my Stanford experience great thus far, because I've built that community early on. And, my best friends have come out of that program, but also they've introduced me to other programs at Stanford, supporting students like myself. Um, but also having a South Salem alum at Stanford has also been a unique experience. as many of you know, probably Enrique Flores, he has been a huge mentor to me. I even say he is the reason I'm one of the reasons why I'm at Stanford because he encouraged me to apply. Um, and I have had him the last 2 years, and he has encouraged me to apply to other programs. He's actually the one who told me about this program in DC. So I owe a lot of my success and continued success to Enrique. So for those of you who don't know, there's other South Salem alums at Stanford, and that has also been my community there.
Well, that's a great opportunity to launch into what we call our four big questions. And those big questions today are brought to you by the Saxon Success Fund, which is a nonprofit organization with the goal of transforming South High from one of the best schools in the state to one of the best schools in the nation. And that happens through the support of our alumni, as you mentioned, and our community. If any listener wants more information on that or wants information on how to get involved, they can go to saxonsuccessfund.org for more information. So let's launch into those four big questions because I think the very first one speaks to exactly what you're talking about right now, which is knowing where you are today, the journey you've been on for the last couple of years since you were an official Saxon student. What program, what classes, what or who, really, you mentioned those mentors too. What or who helped you get to this point where you're at now, Rachelle?
I think I devote my success to a lot of people, whether it's my family, different communities I built at South or in Oregon. Of course, I have to say my family, and for me, my family is my mom. Um, my mom is my motivator for everything, and she is the reason I strive to be the best person I can every day, and also follow through with humility and grace. And my mom also taught me the importance of hard work. When I was in high school, I worked two jobs. Also, during high school, it was the pandemic, so you can imagine my high school experience there. So yeah, I devote a lot of the person who I am to my mom and everything she has taught me, also being a single mom. And aside on my communities at South, I devote it to Latino Club. Like I mentioned, I was in high school during the pandemic, and so it was very isolating for a lot of us students, especially as someone who did the IB program and doing most of the IB program online. Um, I mainly found community through Latino Club. So another space where other students who I could see myself represented in. Um, and then lastly, not related to South, but I mean, I just have to give them a shout out is Willamette Academy. Um, that program, I think, is one of the reasons why I am in college. And again, found amazing mentors there. And a little funny story, my supervisor at my work right now, she is actually an Academy alum. And so that feels like a full circle moment, even being here in DC. And so I would have to say those three things for now: my family, the spaces I found at South, and Willamette Academy.
Rochelle, we're going to have students listen to this conversation. It'll be part of some core curriculum that we're weaving into both our Hispanic Heritage Month celebrations that we have going on at South, but also just in classes and programs that you were involved in that'll be part of the spotlight as well. I'm curious, well, one, I know students are going to like your story will resonate with them and talking about your mom and how important that relationship is, talking about working two different jobs to get through high school and prepare for life beyond South Salem. Every element of what you just shared, though we're not all going to go to Stanford, it still does speak to the core of who we want our students to be and who we want our students to aspire to. I'm curious for you as you think back on those high school years. Question number two of our four big ones. Question number two is what's one piece of advice that you would give your high school self, or if you were in front of our student body of 2,300 plus students right now, what would you want them to know?
I think my answer may sound a little cliche, but I stand by it. And it is to really appreciate those small moments that only your high school years will offer. For me, that was probably sitting in Dixon's boardroom eating lunch or going to football games or staying after school to make posters for a club.
Yes.
Um, it's those little moments that I think when we're in high school we take for granted. But now that, like I've mentioned, my life is changing so much now, and I wish I would have appreciated those moments more when I was in high school, especially before the pandemic. Because we took those years for granted, and life just goes so much faster after you graduate, and really enjoying that time I think is super special.
I love that and I appreciate that. And that's one of the messages we try to put out, even as cliche as it is. It's so powerful and it's so important. And so I'm curious, of all the lived experiences you've had, what's something, question three here, what's one thing that you've learned since graduation that you knew about this world, whatever the real world is? What's one thing you've learned that sticks with you now?
Yeah, I think this one still hits close to home because it's something I'm still learning every day, even being in school and still working. And again, it's going to sound cliche, but it's really to not underestimate yourself.
Hmm.
I think being at South and being a part of the IB program, and also coming with my background, I put a lot of high expectations on myself. And while I think what I did in high school really prepared me for where I am today, I think it also came with a lot of imposter syndrome.
Hmm.
And so, even when I tell people all the things I do, I'm even myself like, wow, that is amazing. But it's that constant, like every day is a new day to better yourselves mentally and physically. And for me, it's still coming to terms with the fact that like, wow, I have been able to do all of this, whether it's 2 years since I graduated or where else am I going to go after this.
Hmm.
So I think it really is, don't underestimate yourself because you really never know where life's going to take you.
Absolutely. And that motivation that you spoke to getting through the hard times in high school, those classes, all those IB classes, it's working a couple jobs. For you, what was at the root of that? I know you mentioned your mom earlier, but as you were walking into a space that you may have felt like an imposter, or as you were attending a class that you're the first student that's headed toward, and your family headed towards a college future, and now living it out. Speak on that motivation a bit more.
For me, it's my mom. I think my mom has always taught me to, you know, embrace every opportunity with confidence, but also remember where you come from. And so I think in those moments where, I was an IB student, I was one of the few who graduated with a diploma as a first generation Latina. And then now going to Stanford, where it was those little moments where even though I didn't see myself represented in most spaces, in those moments where I did, I was like, okay, I'm heading there. Um, and it's the little encouragement that my mom gives me, whether she sometimes may not know what I'm doing or what I just applied for. I think she knows I'm doing it right, and the trust I have from her is an investment that I think she is able to provide for me. Um, but yeah, for me, it's staying grounded in my background and who my mom is and how she raised me.
I've heard that theme in several of your answers that, knowing who you are and the community that you come from and your heritage. And I think about this month that part of the spotlight for you is not only because you're an alumni, but also because we get to celebrate Hispanic Heritage Month school-wide and nationwide. I'm curious for you, what does that mean for you? What is that? How does that resonate within some of the answers you've given in terms of your community and who you are and where you come from and uh, your own representation for, let's talk about our student body right now, that everyone can aspire to you, whether or not they have ancestry that matches yours or mine. Like you are an aspirational example for all of us. What does it mean to be that? And also, what does it mean to be someone who represents so many people in a way that we can honor?
Us Latinos, we celebrate our heritage all year. And I think to me, celebrating is not just, saying you are Latino or that we are here, but it's also being actionable in your presence every day, how you enter the workspace, how you enter the classroom, um, and remembering where you come from, like I've mentioned. And so um, I think it's super powerful, and even where I am right now, that it's Hispanic Heritage Month, and the way I'm doing it in DC is such a unique experience. Um, so it means a lot, and one person, doesn't represent everyone, but is a small voice for those who can maybe feel represented in one.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you for the example you're setting, both for us as staff, but also for our students. Can't wait to share more of your story with everybody and
Mhm.
how that will then motivate our students as well. It's pretty incredible. Okay, question number 4. Speaking of those students and speaking of our school, if you could come back as our principal for the day and transform South Salem High School in one way, what would you add or what would you change about our school?
I just hope South continues to give voice to students who come from unique backgrounds, and that might not be just from your racial or ethnic identity. It might just, from a lived experience or
Hmm.
from moving across the country now ending up in Oregon. I think when we celebrate those experiences, I think we all come as one. One small act that I always love seeing is the multicultural week that happens at South. I think it's such a special event that Latino Club loves to host. Yeah, I would say that's the main thing. I hope South just continues to give space to those students,
Hmm.
and that all teachers really set, you know, that as a standard for them. Because you're serving these students who a lot of them come from these different populations and experiences. And to be a good educator, I think it means also understanding those experiences.
And speaking of those teachers, anyone that you want to give a shout out to, I want to make sure I give you space to do that as well.
Oh my goodness, there's so many.
I know.
Um, well, one, I'll point out my favorite class.
Yes.
My favorite class was IB Theory of Knowledge with Miss Crony, who I believe is not there anymore. But yes, definitely my favorite class. I think we had great discussions, great students, and yeah, it was just an amazing class. And then, um, I have to give a shout out to Dixon. I was a part of DECA. I was a DECA kid, so and Mr. Rolfness. I always see him at his food truck every time I go back to Salem. So it's always nice seeing him. Miss Keck was also a huge support when I was in Avid and also when I took her math class. So, and Miss Drexler allowed me to write this paper that to this day I still think about. And she was also just such an amazing person, and you could tell she really cared about her students. So, for now, I would give a shout out to those teachers.
Wonderful. Thank you. I'll make sure that they get the message. Yeah, we'll increase our listenership if I tell everybody, hey, listen, you get to hear a shout out for yourself. So that's great. That's our 4 questions, but I have a few more rapid questions for you. What is your favorite spot to eat in Salem?
That is such a good question. It's called Las Islas Marias. It's in Lancaster. It's basically Mexican seafood. And I love it because from where my mom is from in Mexico, it's the coastal area, and so we eat a lot of seafood in my house.
Hmm.
And Las Islas Marias really hits the spot sometimes. So I would give a shout out to that restaurant.
That's wonderful. Go eat there, everybody. Absolutely. Favorite place you've traveled?
Okay, I guess I'll give a shout out to this last year. I was able to go to the south of France. So out of all my travels this year, that was my favorite spot. Very beautiful. And specifically Marseille is where I went. So very fun area.
Okay. Favorite college class?
My favorite college class I took my first quarter at Stanford, and it was like an English requirement I had to take. But it was called Why College,
Hmm.
and it was taught by Professor Amir Loggins. And the class was basically just on our perspective of why we think getting a college education is important. And everyone had different reasons, different backgrounds, but I think it was such a phenomenal way to start my Stanford experience, and especially being taught by Professor Amir, who had a breadth of knowledge in the education system and what it means for different students. And so definitely my favorite class.
Has your answer to that question shifted in the last couple of years?
Ooh, maybe so. Maybe so. Yeah,
Yeah.
I think so. I think college, it is for some students and it isn't for others, and might be the trade route or it might be just going straight to work. And um, I think I always knew that, but I think uh, being in his class made me realize that there are so many other avenues, and the way you look at college is just different for each person. Mhm.
Favorite TV show or movie?
Um, no, I'm not a huge didn't really grow up being a huge TV
Hmm.
person or series, but um, it's this one show my aunt made me watch growing up, and it's also like a really famous band that my mom loves. It's called Rebelde. It's basically a series about these teenagers who go through high school, but they have a lot of life-changing lessons, and it's super big in Mexico and my mom's generation. But that just came out because they just had their like you could call it like their Eras tour.
Yes.
Um, and so that just I would say that show. It's called Rebelde for those
Okay.
I don't know.
That's great. Well, Rochelle, thank you so much for joining us today and just for taking the time to be a person, a aspirational human, a compassionate human, someone who cares about community, cares about impacting the world in a way that gosh, is lasting in a positive way. And we have so many students who are hungry to be that or are searching for what does this look like? And you've provided such a stellar, shining example of that. So thank you. We're all so proud of you. Any
Thank you.
other final words, any final thoughts that come to mind when you think about what we're trying to accomplish here in these alumni spotlights, as well as anyone, you want to shout out that may not be a teacher? But would be someone that may be listening.
I do want to give a shout out to Ms. Rodriguez. She is not a teacher, but she works at South, and she was also just an amazing person throughout my time at South. But no, honestly, it's just I'm so proud to be a South Salem alum. Go Saxons, I always say. And the times I do get to visit home and Salem, I mean, I live right next to South. For those of you who don't know, no, I don't know if I should say that, but I'm always proud to see my school and hearing about the updates. Even having family friends now work at South. So I think we're a huge family, a huge familia, as we
Mhm.
say in Spanish. So I'm just so proud of of everything I learned at South and how that experience really has made me the person I am today.
Well, that wraps up today's episode of Always a Saxon. Thanks to Rachelle for jumping on and joining us in this conversation. Thanks to the Saxon Success Fund, the opportunity for Saxon alumni and friends to contribute to the success of South Salem High School and its students well into the future. Again, for more information, check out saxonsuccessfund.org. We're brought to you by the Saxon Success Fund and all that they have going on, here to support our Saxon community, both current students and into the future. Thanks everybody for listening. We'll catch you next time. Go Saxons.